How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to properly roast an atheist by presenting him as much evidence of the possibility that we can come up with. So the problem with the atheist is they're gung-ho on stating that they know that there's not a God, but I argue in all actuality, it's not necessarily something that is known. It's just something that they kind of want to be. That in fact, that's more or less all it really is. That's what they kind of want it to be, which doesn't make sense to me why they would want it to be like that. They will argue, oh yeah, well it's not that I want it to be like that, it's just that that's what I know. But in all actuality, they just think that they know something that they say they know, but the truth is they don't know what they know. And here's how I'm going to roast an atheist. There are a few ways to roast an atheist, but some of the most important concepts of understanding when you're actually going to go into these dynamics of proving these type of things, of the fallacy of someone's idea or belief, is being able to find the answer that puts it into an understanding. So I have come to understand that this is something that is easy to misunderstand. So I am not disappointed with anybody who takes on an atheist perspective, and if that's what they believe, no problem. More power to anybody who has their own beliefs and whatever, because it doesn't affect me. Everybody's going to do what they want. It's not like it's my choice to decide what everybody's supposed to do with themselves. So I really don't have much of a problem with an atheist, except for if they're trying to prove that God doesn't exist, because there's not really any way to know if he doesn't exist, which is really weird. But what's really weird about it is it's easier to decide and come to understanding that he more than likely does exist than he more than likely doesn't exist. Is what the whole point of my video is to roast an atheist, is to get rid of the false statements that are being, expressed on their understandings. Some of their understandings to why they have come to know that there's not a God is that there's evil going on in the world, and they know that, just because if there's evil, then everything has to be perfect. Okay, that's a broader sense of what most people are gonna come at is, okay, well, everything needs to be perfect if there was ever gonna be a God. So they totally don't even take into consideration how everything is virtually perfect. Everything is virtually perfect to the sense of everything is expected to be needed. So your eyes are expected to be needed. Your brain is expected to be needed. The sun is expected to be needed. Space itself is expected to be needed. Air is expected to be needed. Everything is expected to be needed. Perfect. It's nearly flawless. But then they don't even understand the whole concept of how just because one person decides to do something doesn't mean that makes everybody bad. And that's what they come to understand and take a belief of. It's like, hey, if one person is bad, then everybody's bad. When all actuality is, well, if one person's being bad, then that doesn't change the fact that that's just one person being bad. That doesn't mean that you should feel like you're okay and have the right to be bad now, since because you don't know what it's worth to that person, because maybe to that person it's worth it to be bad, and they don't care if they get in trouble. So now your argument of, okay, well, since I've seen other people being bad, I'm okay with being bad, so, because if someone else is going to do it, then obviously they know everything. So that's their perspective, is they're just going to go with the flow. Oh, well, if someone else is going to do it, then I'm just going to do it. Okay, well, what if they're going to have to pay consequences for that? So now you're not necessarily just saying, oh, I'm going to do this and get away with it because this person can get away with it. Now you're actually just saying, oh, I'm going to do this because I can just pay for it later, and then I'll just get in trouble for it later. You don't know if that's what's actually going to happen, which is what's expected. That's what's expected, because here are my 2 quotes that are going to help guide an atheist into deeper understandings of what is possible. The problem with an atheist is not understanding what is possible. We just are to the understanding and knowing that it's possible. That's something that you should know as well. Oh yeah, that's more than possible for there to be a God to exist. And no one's wrong. Like me, if you don't believe in God, more power to you. No problem. But, your job as the other person who doesn't believe in God is to actually provide facts and evidence and not just statements of what you're saying and how you feel about it. Because all these atheists, all they talk about is how they feel about it and what they decided, and who's to be the one to say that they're making any sort of right decision when everybody has the ability to decide if something's right or wrong, because that's our job. Your job is to decide why is it right, why is it wrong. So you decide, and that's for you to have decided on. So your decision is for your own sacred cherishment and possession for your own self. I'm not going to try to take what you have come to take possession of and learned. And, for all I know, you may have been looking your entire life for the answer to come to know that, oh, I know now that there's not a God, because you've been trying to figure it out your whole life. So I'm not the one to determine what you know or don't know. All I'm here to determine is put on the plate of what is known and what is not known. So that isn't known, because the only way to know that there's not a God is if nothing existed. And then we would know that nothing is possible. And also if we would know that there is not a God if nothing was possible. But what did we discover? When you've seen my 2 quotes that I've already showed everybody here of how, let me look at them real quick. You never have to be right, but you should never be wrong. Okay, so when the atheist comes after someone who believes in God, they don't even understand that concept that no one needs to be right. It doesn't matter who the fuck is right. I don't need to be right. All that matters is if I'm not wrong. So if they can't prove that I'm fucking wrong, who's for them to say anything? You can't say shit because you can't prove I'm wrong. Okay? That's that's your guys' problem. Doesn't matter if anybody is right. Okay? No one needs to be right. The only thing that matters is if we're never wrong. So, most people, everybody's different when they have their ideas and beliefs and concepts of God. I have come to decide for my own self, and from what I have seen, that not everybody has the same understanding and belief in God, which is what makes it pretty controversial and debative, because, I may have a different type of belief and understanding in God as opposed to some other people who believe in God who have other maybe more outrageous types of beliefs tied into it, which it goes both ways. No one can write up a free pass for anybody of, oh, they know what they're talking about just from being labeled on one side or the other. So just because you're an atheist doesn't mean that you still don't have fallacy behind your principles and concepts and what you have decided. But it goes on both sides. Someone who believes in God, it doesn't mean that they don't have fallacy and wrong choices to what they have come to decided. It's going to go on both ways, because just by choosing one side or the other isn't going to make you right or wrong. The only thing that's ever going to make anybody right or wrong is if the decision makes any sense. So if we can decide something that actually makes sense of. So where we are able to roast an atheist is they're saying it's not possible. Okay, we've already saw, boom, anything is possible. Roasted. End of story. I'm not even going to debate this anymore, because it's like, what am I trying to debate this with? A 2-year-old? A fucking someone in kindergarten? Do you not have a brain to not understand that sort of concept? Okay, we literally move on to the next. There's nothing else. We already know anything is possible. So now atheists are just trying to say that nothing is possible. Why don't you just say that? Why don't you just say that nothing is possible, so then we can see how stupid you people really are, trying to say that nothing is fucking possible. You people wonder why you make yourselves look so fucking dumb, and why I can sit here roasting your asses by proving that you are not understanding what you're saying. You do not understand what you're saying when you say that nothing is possible when everything is possible. It's the opposite. That's how stupid you are. It's the exact fucking opposite. You're saying nothing is fucking possible, but everything is fucking possible. Anything is fucking possible. You're saying God doesn't exist, but God does exist. Completely fucking opposite of all reality, of what we should come to decide of what makes sense. What else makes an atheist stupid of where we can roast them? Because we know what the definition of God is. It's someone or something that created everything. So when we have seen for ourselves, boom, something created everything, now they're saying that something didn't create everything. That's your belief. You are okay with being wrong. That's your problem. Atheists are okay with being wrong. Atheists are okay with making sense of something that makes no fucking sense. So that's what also confuses me, is if they're so okay with understanding shit that doesn't make sense, then what the fuck is their problem with understanding God if they can't make sense of it? That's why I don't even believe it's a matter of it coming down to them being able to make sense of it. I think it's just a matter of them not liking God and wanting to fight him, and that they're the part of the problem of why God had to start the fight to begin with. I think these atheists are just trying to confuse everybody and lie to everybody because they want to fight him. They want to try to be the rulers over everything because they have sided with Lucifer, and they want to discredit it from being possible, and that is all it's about. It's not about being right or wrong, because they know, okay, I know there's a God, but I just want to fucking try to fuel the fire and keep fighting on Lucifer's side, which is all Lucifer does. He does the same thing as an atheist. He's going to try to tell you that nothing is possible, but we already seen everything is possible. Lucifer's going to try to tell you God doesn't exist, but we already seen something created everything. So, an atheist, in my opinion, is just a second version of Lucifer. Someone who wants to stir the pot, create problems, not giving a shit that they're wrong. That's their problem. They don't care that they're wrong. They don't care that it doesn't make sense. They don't care that that doesn't make sense, that, oh, anything is possible, but it's okay for me to say nothing is possible. They're okay with being wrong. They're okay with being stupid. That's why it would be absolutely foolish to take on that sort of belief, because you would only be okay with being stupid, being wrong. You basically are embracing the nature of it being okay to be wrong. If that's what you want to embrace, that's a different story. But don't go telling two different sides to the story of, oh, I'm an atheist because I know there's not a God, as opposed to, oh, I'm an atheist because I want to be able to be wrong whenever the fuck I want to be. There are two different things going on here with this. So most people are being atheists for the wrong reason. It's not anybody's job as an atheist to say, hey, there's not a God, because we know that, when you can't prove that. You're just saying that. You're just saying that something didn't create everything. Just because you want to say that something did not create everything doesn't mean that that is true. Because that's what you believe. You believe that if I say that something is true, that it's true. And that's your problem. You're saying that, oh, because I say it's true, it's true. That's fine if that's what everybody wants to do. But all it comes down to is probability. What is expected? What is reality? What is the reality? The reality comes down to either A or B. There's only ever going to be two sides. One, if there actually even is a God, well, then that would mean that there has to be a God. So that always makes more sense, that there has to be a God. Why do we think that that makes more sense, that there has to be a God? Because everything is like that, where everything has to be, has to be, has to be. Where did we ever come to any sort of conclusion that something doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be? That's the problem with the fucking atheist. Oh, it doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be, doesn't. Why do you, that's your idea, that's your belief. Just because you think that something doesn't have to be, doesn't mean you're right, or that it's the truth. But in all actuality, things have to be. For example, your eyes have to be there. It's expected to be needed. It has to be. The sun has to be. Air has to be. Everything has to be. Okay? It has to be. It has to be. That's where atheists aren't understanding that if there are to be a God, that it has to be. So now they're wondering why they're coming on to such a hard argument of what makes no sense of when they try to go defend it and drilling against it. Because we already know that it has to be. It has to fucking be. But you guys are just saying that it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. That's your choice. If you don't think that something has to create everything, you're stupid, because I already proved that something did create everything. So when something did create everything, that's all that we can come to know of. That's all we can know. That's all we know, is that it has to be like that. How can anybody conclude otherwise besides being stupid? So it's more than possible. So that's the whole problem with an atheist, is when we take on the whole concept and belief in God, is we've come to understand and have decided it's more than possible. Why do we think it's more than possible? Because everything exists. Something created everything. Okay? And there are many other things I could tie into that of why we've come to conclude this. So that is, in a nutshell, more than enough to absolutely roast an atheist, to where they can't say anything, because they have already invalidated themselves, because their belief is that something does not have to create everything. That's stupid. We already seen that that's not realistic. That's not what reality is. We know that something has to create everything. So anybody who just takes on that idea that something does not have to create everything, you're stupid. That's not more than probable. That's not more... Okay, here's the thing about God being more than probable. It's more than possible. More than possible for there to be a God is because we've already saw that dots connect. Okay, so when you go into the human psyche, there comes a battle between, let's say the relationship, where maybe not everybody is okay with, sex doggy style. We're talking, fucking each other in the ass, right? Like a man and a female. Of course, yeah, two dudes can do that, but, it's more realistic that, a male and female. So it's more than possible to, the guy to go fuck the girl in the ass, right? So it's more than possible. So some people want to have a misconception and not really know, like, oh, I wonder if that's okay, if that's something that is we should do, or if that's reality. But in all reality, it's more than possible. So why would we not come to conclude that, oh yeah, why not? Why would it not be? Same with the creator. It's like the same thing. It's more than possible. It's like, why? Who would think that it wouldn't be something? It's just pure madness, guys. I mean, there's more. There's more I could roast on this and just keep going and going, but that really is about all that needs to be roasted between it. I mean, seriously, because that's what an atheist believes. They believe something did not have to create everything, but we already saw for ourselves that something had to create everything, and that something did create everything.